The grey mare's back.
Yes, Admiration Express makes for a very happy father-in-law. It was my mother-in-law's birthday yesterday.
Kidding.
Marty, no, I'm not joking. And then his horse came out and won Admiration Express. So we're catching up with him for a birthday lunch today, and there'll be a couple of drinks on Poke today.
You would say so.
Yesterday.
Now tell us. Now Suey, he's texted in to say that he was a part of your three-legger that got up yesterday, your exclusive Tab Touch bet. Tell us about that.
Thank you, Marty. Yeah, we got the 3 legs home there yesterday, or depending on when you put the bet on, it was around $12 on Thursday night, but it was about $9.50, $9.60 yesterday. I was in here with you working yesterday afternoon, and it was almost running concurrently with a couple of races running late there yesterday, but as it turned out, the final leg ended up being first encounter there at Pinjarra, and it managed to arrive, which was very good. And of course, across there in Sydney, just prior, or only seconds prior, it was Headley Grange. So we were kind of watching 2 TVs at the same time and trying to marry them all up. And as it turned out, we got the right result.
Actually, I like the way it played out because they were all done and dusted within about 10, 15 minutes of each other.
We knew our fate pretty quickly.
The splashback, well, how it won, and we'll be talking about that with Racetrack Ralphy. And then your next two, the races actually clashed. And we could, and I'm saying to Shorty, you're well positioned up here in Sydney, 3 back the fence in the orange colours, just get to the outside and win, and then we go back and first encounter, and we had to work hard to get it home, but it got home.
Sweating, we're in a sauna there for a few moments.
It was a good result for everyone involved. Now, Benno of Mandurah sent one in, I've got to read this, not sure if it has been said over the last day or two, but a massive shout-out to Matty Young at Gloucester Park last Friday night for his work with the pre-race interviews in what looked to be horrific weather. Well, we spoke about this off-air, didn't we?
We did.
Surely there's room in the budget to get the great man an umbrella. Also, surely Voss has coached his last AFL game. Cheers, Benno and Mandurah. Well, let's start off with the nephew first. Yeah, He did a fantastic job in very trying conditions, let me tell you.
Braving the elements. I tell you, I was tuned in there on Friday night thinking to myself, I hope they've got a little something extra in that pay packet for you, Matty, because they were unprecedented scenes. It was, I think at one stage, nigh on hailing, and he dug in for the team, which was tremendous to see. I think towards the end he just about had enough, though, Marty, it must be said. By the last 2 races, I think he was pretty happy to pack up and go home. What was the second part of that question there?
Has Vossi. Look, I don't know about this, and it's going to be a good test for the Carlton Footy Club. Do they stay with him and start getting rid of players, or do they get rid of him like Carlton normally do?
Well, that's been their general path, hasn't it? When things have gone south, the coach has generally been the one that's moved on. So we'll have to wait and see. Look, it was a disappointing loss, it must be said. They really... And that's the most frustrating part is when the air's out of the game and the pressure's basically gone that, you can't win now. They loosen up, play, half decent football and flood home, get within 11 points, and the punters walk away going, they're not actually that bad. But when the game's there, and we've seen it a few times, they just have a tendency to really choke up and go back into themselves instead of expressing themselves and taking the game on. They really do sort of get conservative, and we saw that in round 1 against Richmond, right back to that first performance, and that sort of set the tone for the rest of their season, unfortunately. Yeah,
they do. They drift in and out, don't they? They can be totally dominant, but when they were dominant, they wasted their opportunities. 2-7, bad kicking back. We see some bad kicking over the weekend, and don't get me started, David, for crying out loud. Because I had to move venues yesterday watching the Sydney Swans, just trying to lose that one. But did, only because Port was so bad.
Correct.
They just couldn't get themselves going, could they, Port? They were terrible yesterday.
Which is really surprising because they've got a lot of top-class players like Butters and Horn Francis and Rosie. They've got a lot of guys that
where
really...
were they yesterday?
They just didn't have massive impact at all. But 9-17, for Sydney to win a game with kicking 9 goals, 17. And I was listening to some radio, and the commentator continued to go on with the same line every time a goal was missed. It's an epidemic. It's an epidemic. I'm telling you.
That's not what I was saying.
Goal kicking, it's a lost art. But I tell you what, it's a valuable art. And you and I have spoken about this. I'd love $1 for every time we've had a quick chat about it. But the importance of just taking your time, aiming up. You've got a very big target. The irony of it is these guys are so skilled. If it was a field kick and you gave them a target as big as what they've got to kick a goal, they'd kick 95 out of 100. But because they're
too mental,
posts,
you say?
Oh, it's got to be. Because their skill set of these players to be missing as many as what they do, and yet if you take the goals away and say kick it to a player, they can almost get it to a small box as to where they deliver the football. And yet when there's two big white posts and a massive gap in between them, it seems an enormous challenge.
Here we go. This is from Richard at Calgary and / Como, so he's a 2 address operator by the look of things. David Shortte's 3-leg multi netted me a good day on the punt, and had Warney won it, would have been super duper. So that's a good one from Richard.
Thank you, Richard. Well done.
Here's Mario. Morning, lads. Good to see Ross Lyon looking for excuses for another loss, stealing money as a coach everywhere he goes. His game style is outdated. The only person who doesn't realise that is Ross himself, and that is from Mario. I think he's doing a good job with the players he's got, and he's blooded young players, and they were in that game until, well, you know, they kicked the first 2 goals of the final quarter, got it back to 10 points, and it was game on, and then the brilliance of Collingwood, and it was the little man himself, that goal Nick Dacos kicked. What a goal.
Oh, he's an elite. He's an elite player. There's no doubt about that. And they tried to clamp down on Nick Dacos once again there. Yes, it just didn't work. Windhager's been very good at the caper, but Nick Dacos. But I tell you, there were a couple of telling points in the game. So now that they know Nick Dacos is going to be tagged pretty extensively at different times, Collingwood as a playing group, the way that they got around him and made sure that Windhager, I was listening to the broadcast. I like listening to a lot of football, Marty, and even if I'm watching it, I'll often turn the TV down and listen to some of the experts there. And David Schwartz, I think, was commenting on the game, and he was making point about, well, if you're Windhager, you're in for it. Never mind Nick Dacos being in for a long night. If Collingwood do this properly, Windhager should be in for a big night. And lo and behold, moments later, Scott Pendlebury, Steele Sidebottom, and Crisp, the 3 of those guys, within a short space of time, all 3 of them made a point of running off their opponent, going off to Windhager, giving him a bit of a check or a little bit of a body on body nudge. And so every opportunity they had to help their mate out a little bit and put some pressure on the bloke playing on him, they really made the most of it. And accordingly, it's sort of over time, it just wears them down. Instead of them wearing the player down, the rest of the team helped to wear him down and make the job easier. So Josh and Nick both with 30 there in the end yesterday. And what about Nasai Wanganeen-Malera for St Kilda? He's got a big decision to make, this young man, and don't underestimate the importance of his decision. If he stays, then other people are looking at St Kilda and going, well, if a player of his quality is prepared to stick around, obviously the future is quite bright. If he happened to leave, there'd have to be some question marks on why are people leaving this place. And so if your TDK is going to go there, well, he might say, hang on a second, I'm going to pump the brakes on that. Now, we've got to get up to our great man. He has been a star over here in James Sully Sullivan, but let's catch up with James Sully Sullivan. A very good morning.
Hello, Marty. Hello, Shorty.
G'day,
Don't worry about golden points, mate. We had everything. over the. It's actually been an incredible week of rugby league, hasn't it?
Oh, has it ever? But let's start off with the Storm and the Rabbitohs last night. What a match it was.
Yeah, it was a great match. I'll tell you what, they're cracking 3 real good games yesterday. And as you said, 12-4 at half time, the Storm led. And what about this, though? This bloke, Alex Johnson, and Shorty will know, I've been a Rabbitohs man, but incredibly, last night he eclipsed something. It was his 16th time he scored 3 tries. Well, he said, I want 4 for the first. Scores 4 tries, they get beat. Oh, he'd be going. Sul, he wouldn't have slept too well last night. Honestly, what more can you do? He's got over the line on 4 separate occasions. They've still found a way to get rolled there. To be fair, though, they've been beaten by a very good side. Yeah, it took a while. It's been that sort of scenario. We saw score 3 on Wednesday night for New South Wales, and they got beat. But yeah, as I said, they just fought. And I love what Wayne Bennett said. And in the interview after it, they just asked him, he said, well, this side never gives up. They never give up. And it took that 83rd minute Pappenhausen field goal to obviously grab the points. So big win for the Storm, but it really, really does hurt the Rabbitohs now. I think they're back to 15th, I think. So after such a great start of the year, but it's been tough. It's been tough.
How about locally? The Dolphins going down to the Knights in an upset, 26-20.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, and it was, let's be totally honest, 16-10 at half time, the Knights led in a game that it ebbed and flowed. Obviously, I was there on the sideline, and they started well, the Dolphins, and all of a sudden, halfway through that first half, the Knights had 55% of the footy and led accordingly. And then just the back end of the half, the Dolphins got back into it, and they toughed it out beautifully. And that late, mate, I'll tell you what, when you get class players come back into your side and make other class players, Bradman Best, first game in 6 weeks, scores 2, try assist for Jones's late try in the 78th minute. But what he did, he set it like Kalen Ponga. Ponga had his best game of the year. Wow. Unbelievable. He was everywhere, and all of a sudden, you know, Fletcher Sharp injury where he went off with a HIA, he was the 5'8", and all of a sudden Ponga said, okay, I'll get my hands on the ball. And he went down that left edge, as I said, Bradman Best. Big game. Dolphins, yeah, poor old Jack Bostock looks like an ACL for him, the winger. He scored 4 tries last week, so he's a big loss when he comes out. But, mate, when you look at season defining, the next month, the Knights have got 3 at home and a bye. That win yesterday was season defining.
Keeps the season alive, that's for sure and certain. We saw the Warriors taking on the Panthers, and it was the Panthers 28-18 winners. Nice performance and great opportunity too. Now you're sort of they look to be up against it for a fair portion of the first part of the season, but they now find themselves up to 6th on the ladder.
Shorty and Marty and listeners and everyone's looking over their shoulder. You talk about club wins, and I blew up, didn't I, Marty, on Friday and Thursday. I thought the NRL, what are they thinking, putting this game on in New Zealand, a couple of days after Origin? You can't get your players there from Perth ready for the game. This Panthers, that's a massive club win yesterday. And let's be totally honest, it was 28-12 with 2 minutes to go, and the Warriors scored a late try. They'll be shattered, the Warriors. I know now, Mitch Barnett, I know he got injured a couple of weeks ago. Kurt Capewell wasn't there. But you got 5 players out from this Panthers side. 5 quality footballers, and the Panthers, mate, that's probably Cleary was just over the moon, Ivan. You know, because as I said, that's a great club win. And boys, as we know, they've been in the last 5 grand finals, winning 4. And a lot of people starting to look over the shoulder.
Okay, and then on Friday night, the Raiders got the job done against the Tigers 16-12.
Yeah, they were resilient, weren't they, the West Tigers? They kept coming 16-0 at half-time. Raiders didn't score any points in that second half, and the Tigers got close. I tell you, the last 4 or 5 minutes was exhilarating. Tigers just kept throwing everything at them. But, yeah, the feel-good moment of the night, Jed Stewart playing his debut and scores a try on his debut. And, yeah, Ricky... You don't see Ricky in tears very often. He was in a lot of tears, boys. But, yeah, Raiders doing the job nicely.
Indeed. We've got 3 games today to look at, Sol. The early games. These the Brisbane Broncos, $1.53. Cronulla Sharks, $2.50. Line betting, 5.5. Total points, 48.5. How do you see this unfolding?
It doesn't get any easier. I tell you what, picking winners, because this is another one. This is just a game you look at, and they're both a little bit inconsistent, aren't they? Bulldog, I mean, obviously the Broncos found their form last 2 weeks ago against the Titans, but this Cronulla side, no Origin players, unaffected, just they're the same. I just can't get my finger on the pulse with them at the moment, but yeah, it's going to be, mate, Broncos at home should win the game, but it's not the play I'm going to have when we do our multis. So, yeah, I'll go the Broncos, but, yeah, don't get too involved.
All right, on to the 5 minutes past 2 game this afternoon. Sydney Roosters, $1.34. North Queensland, $3.25. Line betting at 8.5, and total points on that one's at 49.5.
Yeah, the Cowboys lose Robson and Cotter. They're not going to back up. So, obviously, after Origin, it looks like they've got 5 players, the Roosters. It looks like they'll all back up according to the press last night. So we'll have a look at that. Mate, they won the last two against them, the Cowboys. And in Sydney last year, I remember it was Jackson Purdue's debut. And I think they'll come to town. They were embarrassed last week, weren't they? A very weak inside, of course, but there's still two of them out. But Roosters are the same. They're just going under the radar, just doing things nicely. There was a gritty win last week against the Knights, but I will go the Roosters in that one.
All right, in the final game, there'll be a bit of excitement. The train, also the McDermott boys, do they have any reason to be getting excited this afternoon? Parramatta 220, Gold Coast 168, the line 3.5, total points 48.5.
Yeah, it's another scenario where you got the Titans who found some form against Manly last week and were very, very good. No Dylan Brown, no Mitchell Moses for the Parramatta Eels. There's a real turnover. We see young Joash Paletti and Hawkins in the halves. So I'll go the Titans, but same scenario, Marty and Shortte. Gee whiz, fair dinkum. You know, some of these sides, they need to get the consistency, but unaffected. Well, they've got the two players, haven't they? The Titans, but Big Tino and Potawaka will play. So interesting to see. I'll go the Titans, eh?
Okay, line up the bets. Let's go.
I'm going to go in the first game. I'm going to go either team by 10 or less. So Broncos, as I said, I can't really split them. So either team. Now I'm going to go the Roosters 1-12, and I'm going to go the Titans 1-12. $20.60 on that one.
Jeez.
Then we're going to go James Tedesco.
Yep.
Into Jaden Campbell from the Titans. That's $6.62, and we'll have a crack at big Adam Fanua-Blake in the first game for the Sharks to get over just on an edge. So the big front rower into Tedesco. Demi, Adam Fanua and Tedesco, $8.40. And I'll tell you, but if you link the three up, this is where you'll enjoy this, Marty.
Yeah.
If you link the three up, it's $26.46.
So that's Blake, Tedesco. Who's the third one?
Jaden Campbell.
Oh, yeah. I get it. Yeah. 21 what?
Yeah.
26.40.
26.40.
26.40.
Gee.
Covers a couple of cold drinks this afternoon, so which we're going to need after this morning in here. So we'll certainly get around that. Hey, what about the big contest between the Sullivan brothers?
Yeah. It's going to be fun, isn't it? It's going to be great fun. Yeah, that's it. Over here today in the Ron Massey Cup. So, yeah, I'll let you all know about that during the week, how it all goes. The old man jumped on the red eye last night. He's going to have a couple of hours sleep and then get ready to go. I tell you one thing before I go. Well done to everybody who came over. It was just lovely. We had the Western Reds 30-year reunion. The boys were all out. We had Jeff Bailey and Butch and the Newcastle crew. Gary Schofield, the ex-Pom, he was in town. It was a real celebration of rugby league, and the Bears are in, and I tell you what, Big Mal had a ball as well. Good. And we just got to wrap it up too. Crusaders have beaten the Chiefs. Bit of an upset to win the Super Rugby 16-12. Go the Crusaders. Big fan. Mate, we wind the clock back 7 days. We tipped them. I know we did. Yep. We tipped the Crusaders in, as you said, a bit of an upset. What's that, 16 I think they've won? Yeah, they hold the record. 30. Didn't a former New Zealand Prime Minister want to change their name because it was offensive? Go on. Sit on that one. All the best. Boom, boom. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you later, Sol. Cheers, Sol. Bye-bye. There he goes, James Sully Sullivan. He's in for a big one there today. Don't worry about that. Coming up, Chris Nelson's next.
You're listening to the Sunday Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sports.
Good morning, Chris Nelson.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
Hi there, Chris. Lovely to be with you on this Sunday morning. It was a good day of racing there yesterday. How'd you pull up this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. If I had been on track, it might be a little bit different with the crowd out there. But, no, being at home, I pulled up quite okay, ready for another big day. But, no, it was a good meeting. Bit hard to find some of those winners, particularly the Cup winner and even the eyeliner winner, but it always is a very, very competitive day, and I think it was very successful. Indeed. Let's have a look at some of the feature races of the afternoon, see if we can identify some winners heading forward. I know this is one that you were quite keen on yesterday in the Schweppes TL Cooney for the 3-year-olds over the 1,350 metres. It was Mr. Bianco defeating Stay Focused and Bollinger Miss Andrew Mallion aboard from the Good Draw. Yeah, and look, he had a good run once again. That's 3 consecutive races that he's won, and he's had the box seat each particular time, although they did go pretty hard in this race. Stay focused. As we know, drew 13 of 14 and was always going forward and put on a pretty strong tempo with Tuned, and Mr. Bianco was just tucked in behind them. Tuned, fortunately, faded at the top of the straight. Mr. Bianco was able to get off the fence, and he just looks a lot more genuine this time in this horse. He'll head towards the Winx Guineas at the Sunshine Coast in 2 weeks' time, or 2 weeks yesterday. And he'll be a chance there, definite chance there, the way he's racing. Stay focused, obviously, very, very good up on speed, setting that strong tempo. And Bollinger Mist, one we did put in the placings yesterday, just looks to be building. I like the way that she closed off along the fence. She was beaten just under a length. So keep an eye out for her going forward as well. But Mr. Bianco is going really well.
Race 7, the Ipswich Cup. What about this? The veteran, the 9-year-old Flasher wins for Ronnie Stewart at $31.
I know. You know, you'd have to have some sort of liking for the horse.
Premonition, dream.
Yeah, like the jockey, like the trainer. You have to know something or have some feeling because he hadn't won for 1,000 days.
Yep.
Wow.
And look, he's been going okay, but he's been going okay in much weaker races. He's a 10-year-old very shortly. All honours, he had the last crack at them. He wins at $31. Felix the Scat, he hasn't been in very good form. He runs second at 14. A Rap Attack's at 3 wide all the way, runs third at $10. The one that was finishing off well was Poetic Drama into 4th spot. Now, Poetic Drama's a mare who's always running on, but this was as far as she'd been, 21.50, and there she was again. So maybe races such as even the Tax Cup next Saturday or the Caloundra Cup the Saturday after might be on the radar there. For Poetic Drama, Osmos, wide no cover early, Forgive. Diablo Bolt pulled up with respiratory issues, the favourite, so Forgive as well.
As did the punters that backed it. And perhaps the way to find it, Marty, was maybe you've been a Rocket Rod Stewart fan and saw the R. Stewart next to the horse's name. That
Any way you want it, sure. It doesn't matter.
Might have been about the only way to get their home there. Let's have a look at the listed eyeliner stakes over the 1,350 metres, and it was Orton for Robbie Dolan defeating Shah of Gomer and Fortunate Kiss.
Yeah, a horse that had been a little bit hard to catch, Orton, but look, he had the last crack at them here. Beat Shah of Gomer. I don't know how many times I've tipped Shah of Gomer when he was with Chris Waller and he'd put in some average performances. He's switched stables to Jeff Dunn, who I think is at Bow Desert. He's going really well. He was only beaten half a length. He's flying for the stable, so he's got a new lease on life. Shah of Gomer, winner $8, second $20, third $19, fourth was Don't Stop at $201. I don't know, guys. I'll ask you, did you think Warney was unlucky?
So on the inside, I would say we're watching the race together, Marty and I, and I'm happy to say I had Warney rolling in a couple of multis, and Marty said it just needs the door to open. Well, unlike Sydney, who kicked point after point and left the door ajar, I don't think the door opened up for Warney, did it?
No, well, Lost in Transit was outside the leader, which was Rock Ribbed, and we all thought Lost in Transit at $51 would drop off on the home turn, but he didn't. He stayed there, and then they came wider out, and that was the end of the chances of Warney. So that's a Forgive run there. One other in particular, Harbour Master, was only clear the last 100 metres. He savaged the line. He won first up. This was good. He's a horse to keep on following this prep.
And the lucky last, the Gay Waterhouse Classic, it was taken out by Godolphin, Kin, James Cummings, and our favourite, Angela Jones.
Yeah, Angela Jones getting a win here for James Cummings is significant. Good trip, drier track, certainly suited Kin. Gerringong, wide, no luck really. He was good again. She was good again. She needs 1,400 metres, there's no doubt about that. Kazoo poked through late. One to keep an eye on here, Sunset Dreaming, a newcomer to the Golan stable, was last on the home term, has beaten 2.2 lengths, really hit the line late. So we will follow Sunset Dreaming, but all honours to Kim.
I want to say what a lot of people think, and few people have texted in about this meeting. I'm not a fan of the meeting. You can take your Ipswich Classic meeting and do your best with it, but not for me.
It's a tough day. It always is a tough day. Ipswich is tough any time for me, but look, the cup meeting's not so bad because you get some better class horses, but they can get up at odds. And yeah, it's one of those tracks where everyone used to say you just ride ugly and you'll win. You can be sitting in the box seat and fade out of it. You can be sitting 3 or 4 wide and still win. So it's I'm a bit with you, Marty. It's a tough one, but it's a great day socially.
Character building.
days in the calendar. Yeah.
Speaking of ugly, Chris, Gerringong had to work harder than an ugly stripper there in that last race. Do we stick with this horse heading forward?
Yeah, I think so. But 1,400 metres, Shorty. Every run this prep, she's been running on 1,100, 1,200, and then stayed at 1,200 and drew that wide gate yesterday. So she was always going to be in trouble. But again, she finished off. So I'd love to see her 1,400 next start.
All right. Moving on to the program at Randwick there. Marty, have you got a message or two from the text line?
No, we're all good. Continue
Beautiful.
on.
We march on then to this program at Randwick tomorrow. The first race we're going to have a look at is the Asahi Super Dry handicap over the 1,000 metres, and it was Lulumon. Jay Collett aboard, defeating Storm the Ramparts, who's been racing in a rich vein of form. Had the stable in general. Joe Pride will be chatting to him later on the program this morning. High Dubai was back in third.
Yeah, the three of them, there was nothing between them on the line, and then a further length, or just under a length and a half back to fourth. So they were all good, but they did go hard here. Storm the Ramparts really set the tempo, and High Dubai was breezing outside of Storm the Ramparts. So for those two to hold on and be beaten such small margins, I think is a credit to them. So Lululemon had the last crack. The other two did all the work. And if you just look at High Dubai in the middle there, really just got to go on again late. 1,100 metres, he seems to be a real 1,100-metre horse, this one. So stick with him when he steps up 100 metres next time out. But all three ran well.
OK, on to race number 8. And, Braithnock continues to ride a lot of winners, doesn't he? He combines here with Kieran Maher again with It's a Knockout, beating O Diamond Lil by about 4 lengths.
Yeah, I think he had a treble last week, and he's been on fire ever since. He's the apprentice of the moment. It's a Knockout, absolutely bolted in here. Just needed the run last preparation first up. Certainly wasn't the case yesterday. Won by 4.14 lengths officially, beating O Diamond Lil, who had every possible chance. And, yeah, I just think this horse needs to be followed. Now, the tempo was strong. The overall time was very strong. So both sections of the race, and he's done it easily. So you think he'd improve on that. So we will follow It's a Knockout going forward.
It just looked to be the win of a horse that looks to be completely different gravy to the benchmark 78 level it was in there yesterday.
Only lightly raced, and look, that last prep did go up against a couple of stronger races and performed quite okay without threatening. But I think during the break has really furnished, so it's come back a much better horse and will continue to improve.
All right, on to race number 9. Bless this particular thoroughbred. Headley Grange getting the job done there yesterday. Jay Collett aboard, had a lovely run in transit, got the job done, defeating Wellwall and Astero.
Yeah, I'm with you, Shorty. I'm falling in love with this horse, Headley Grange. We spoke about him 2 weeks ago when he won, and he really darted through that gap when it came. And this time around, he had a better run. Now, they went really hard here. Cool Jakey and Winchat set a strong tempo, just in the right spot here for Jason Collett. So taken to the front at the right time. He didn't wait for the last crack at them. He put the horse in the right spot in the straight, and they had to run him down, and they couldn't. Wellwall chased in vain. Rykenham was quite good, finishing off along the fence. One right down the bottom here, ran second last, Grabini. Have a look at the replay. Definitely had something to offer in the straight, ran into a brick wall at the 150-metre mark and wasn't tested from there. I know he's a bit of an enigma, Mark. I know he's thinking, but a good track is what he needs, and he was quite okay there yesterday. So at this time of the year, he's a chance of winning a race.
I want to have when we have a chat with Joe Pride, find out the sectionals of this race, because as you said, they went pretty quick in this, and there was one little gut feel in when I was watching it with you, Shorty, and no fault of Jason Collett, but was he just too close to that hot speed? And, the Wellwall come from last to run second. So I think you maybe want to tack a little bit onto this win. Could have been better than it actually looked.
Yep, because all the others came from behind him in the run.
Yep.
So, yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. So, yeah, he's flying, this guy. Where he goes next, I don't know. But he's really going through his grades.
We'll find out and text you. Don't worry about that.
Please do.
Last three. Nashville Willer, barrier 11. This was a little bit of class from the great man. Even though the horse who was one out and one back and let him get in, I thought, well, that's interesting. But anyway, he got in. From out wide to be one out, one back, and from there it was a good win by accredited.
Seems to happen on the horses that you don't back, Marty. They let them in. The ones you're on, they just leave
you
them
cast 3D. Yep.
I know. Look, you had a lovely run. First, the pace was obviously there to suit too. They did not go hard in this race. It was a sprint home. Nothing really made any ground. You saw the favourite there, Kerguelen, struggling to pick them up. Probably Lit was a bit disappointing in 5th spot, up on speed. 3rd up next time, probably last chance. But Accredited had the right run. And look, the first up run was very good, didn't get a lot of room there. And then second up went to Melbourne. There were a few issues there, I think, and maybe didn't handle the other way of going. But this was a horse that was flying last prep. So we'll stick with Accredited. But as I said, tough to make ground here, so I wouldn't sack anything out the back.
All righty. Black bookers for the programs. Chris?
Let's go to Ipswich first. Definitely Poetic Drama. If we see her over further in the next couple of weeks. Harbour Master, definitely. He's only had 2 runs back out of the eyeliner. And Gerringong and Sunset Dreaming out of that final race. They were both very good. Randwick, just to hide you by out of race 7 at this stage, wants a shade further. And for today, we're at the Sunshine Coast today. We've got a soft 7 track and an 11-metre rail, guys. So on pace will be suited. Making ground down the outside will not happen. Race 3, number 6, Call to Courage, and race 6, number 2, Pasima for me.
I like it, Chris. Outstanding work. We appreciate your time as always this Sunday morning here on The Aftermath. We'll hear from you on Wednesday morning with Digby and Tim on the Sports Daily. Until then, many winners.
Thanks, guys. Have a great Sunday and go Tigers.
Yeah, go the Tigers up against the Western Bulldogs today. Looking forward to that game. I'm also looking forward to the big clash, GWS and Gold Coast. Which way are you going there, Shorty?
Oh, that's challenging, Marty. I've gone with the home side just on
the home
ground,
side.
But I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't talk you out of whoever you like in that game. It's a genuine flip of the coin job in my eyes. Which way? What about yourself?
I'm with GWS. I'm not a big Gold Coast fan. I'm not on the train yet, particularly away from home. Off the bye, their records are worse in the AFL, but all these stats will probably mean nothing and they'll get up and win. But
the money's been good for them, I can tell you that much. They were, I think, from memory, about 224. I have got that sheet here. I'll let you know in a couple of moments' time. I wrote them down a bit late this week, but I had them at 212 late on Monday. Yeah, I think they were even trimmer at some point there.
So they're about to $1.90 or something now?
$1.95, yeah. So the money's been very good on the way through for them to get the job done today. Look, GWS for me, they're an interesting side. They've got their best this year has been good against some of the really good sides. Some of their not so good has been so steady against sides you'd expect them to just knock up and win. So this is going to be a wonderful game. 10 past 11, bounce down punters. It's almost a flip of the coin job. Good luck.
Yeah, it is. That is for sure. And they just lose a couple of players again, don't they? All year, GWS have had good players out of that team. They haven't been, and you saw it yesterday with Sydney, the best team of the year that he's been able to put on the park. Indeed. What happens? They get the money as away outsiders.
Instant. It really was. Goulden makes such a big difference, but also the man up front. He did have his challenges. I think he was off the ground for a patch in Tom Papley, but he just sparks up that entire forward line. Defenders look nervous when he's around it. His teammates walk a bit taller. It just really does make it so much more dynamic. It was a poor performance there. We'll talk to Brad about it between 7 and 7:30, but it was a poor effort from the Power and very good from Sydney. You touched on it on Friday afternoon that Sydney could be the sort of side that you're not going to look forward to playing in the last third of the season with their soldiers all starting to return now. I'm with you on that one. I think that Dean Cox has had a really tough initiation as a coach. It'll only get easier from here with some of his better players returning to the ground. They'll get a bit more confidence, particularly if they can keep Papley and Goulden healthy and well. They will look a lot better. Marty back up front, he could not hit the side of a barn door, but at least he gave them a target and something to kick the ball in towards the forward 50 set up for. So,
and they can play with a bit of freedom.
Indeed.
For where they are at the moment. That pressure's sort of off them, and now every day they can just go out and have a bit of fun and kick some goals. Hopefully they can kick straighter. Racetrack Ralphy's our man who's going to talk about the meeting at headquarters yesterday. G'day, Ralphy.
Good morning, boys. And I don't often say this at this time of year. This is a serious form reference for the spring.
Good.
Unbelievable couple of performances.
Yep.
Absolutely unbelievable.
We sort of know where you're heading with one of them, I reckon, but let's get in it. How'd the track play?
Track played perfect. The rail was out 11 metres, which suits the on paces if they get the right lead, because the lanes sort of start about 12 off. But really, it just played perfect and just an amazing job at this time of year. We've had a good run with the lack of rain for racing people, not for farmers. And yeah, if you were good enough, you won.
Indeed. And in the first, it was the start of a wonderful day for Patrick and Michelle Payne with a Buckler getting the job done, Billy Egan aboard from Barrier 1. It was a nice performance defeating Arcora.
Yeah, well, a bit of a sucker bet Observer. I mean, and I'm not saying that I expected Observer to run poorly, but it did run poorly. But when they win easily at Sandown midweek at this time of year, you just want to say, well, let's just see how it stands up. Whereas Buckler at Echuca, and it was deep odds on, and it only had to accelerate. Almost the same story, but different in the last race as well, but which we'll get to. But it produced the best last 400 of the meeting, which I love seeing when they do it easily. And it was just a coiled spring job, so it was no surprise to see it run well and really challenge Observer, who just didn't turn up. But I reckon Akora might be a Derby horse, and there's first to be big statements for today, boys. But one thing I noticed about Bussett and Young, and it's just bizarre. I've just picked it up. Late December in the 1200 at Moody Valley, they put their good 2-year-olds there. And
yes.
This race, they put their good stayers in. And it just got beaten on debut at Sandown. There was not much on the clock. Threw it in size, was posted wide. It trialled really well. I thought, might just have a look at this. And, gee, I reckon it worked home beautifully. So first and second at this time of year, we don't often stamp them, but I think they got some genuine staying upside the first two.
Okay, Arcora, one to have a look at there by Justify. Could be a Derby horse of the future. Race number 2 was Stop the Rock again for Patrick and Michelle and Billy Egan.
Yeah, well, this is more like an off-season race. 0.6 of a length between the first 4 and 1.8 lengths between the first 7. As you said, the story of the day was that Team Payne just on fire. Even their third horse just got beaten for Rain of Rubies. Oh, Chocolates, a little balk there at the 400 might have been the difference between winning and losing. Wouldn't be surprised if they put blinkers on it, but always a good sign when they can beat older horses, which Stop the Rock did first up. There wasn't much on the clock, probably didn't need to be, but I still think Chocolates is probably the best day going forward, but basic off-season race.
All right, on to race number 3, the Funky Farm Sprint. It was Marble 9 for Leon and Troy Corstens and Will Larkin. 4-year-old son of Kobayashi defeating Cleo Cat, who was the favourite going in. What did you make of the performance?
Well, Midwest just cruised for Harry Coffey, and what that did was he just wanted to be a position running job because Midwest, as we know, is a really fast 1,000-metre horse, but he was so well rated that you just wanted to be with Marble 9 in the run because you knew he was going to lie down or Cleo Cat or lose some wind more. We're going to have to produce a serious turn of foot, and they couldn't. So Marble 9 in the right spot, in the zone. Let me just say the number here for later in the program, 1033. I'll get to the significance later.
Okay. On to race number 4. It was Taken, Mick Price and Michael Kent, Craig Williams.
Yeah, it wasn't hard to stamp Taken as we did from its previous run. It just had a barrier trial win, if you like, leading in, and it was just super when asked. Well, yesterday, wouldn't be surprised if that's almost enough for the prep. Got the job done again, but probably wanted to see it really produce. The disappointing horse was Dark Simba, who also was in the zone, didn't really let down when it did. I think there's another one we can stamp here, which is Moments. It was really good at its previous run here, and now it's just looking for 2,000 metres. So it ran 5th. I know a lot of would have looked at Dark Bonnie, but the real sustained mid-race move was Moments, and I think a 2,000-metre Flemington race would be absolutely ideal for Moments going forward. But Taken, obviously, very honest horse and probably looking for a spell now.
All right, on to race number 5, the Les Twentyman OAM. This was over the 1,420 metres, and Cafe Millennium is certainly a horse that looked pretty well placed there going in second up for Ben Will and JD Hayes. Gee, they're having a good run, the boys, and it was Cafe Millennium too good here for Heel Rip and also Karhoff.
Yeah, well, I mean, this horse had won one race for a reason due to its style. It was just a screaming bet if you wanted to just back the best horse in the race because its third was really real in that Randwick Guineas. Was it Celestial Legend and Tom Kitten in a 3-way photo? Celestial Legend wins the Doncaster and Tom Kitten goes on to be a Group 1 horse, and this horse just couldn't really fire. We put the big circle around it after its Caulfield run, which was impossible to miss. But like I said, that was in isolation. You had to say, well, what was it going to do yesterday? And you think, get back, probably set for the winner final. But everything went full into place for Luke Cartwright. It's a big tick there, beautiful ride to weave through. And as I said, with the rail out, you didn't want to be back. And that's why they ended up betting $5. It's a bonus win. Wow. So it's going to take a power beating that winter final. It was just absolutely super. I wouldn't want to be on anything else going forward from this race. So it'll be interesting to see who it takes on. But it's won narrowly, but it's got a lot more to come.
Okay, so want to keep an eye on there. Cafe Millennium on to race number 6 over the 2,540. And again, Patrick and Michelle, this time with Tommy Preble and Bold Soul.
Yeah, well, if you're on it, thank me, because obviously I went wide in the quaddies and a three-way photo. The favourite's always going to get the bob in it.
Oh, Murphy.
So these are all just they keep racing against each other, don't they? I'm pretty sure this was the trifecta from a fortnight back. Virtuous Circle brought some different form in. Last time it was here, it ran in the Melbourne Cup. It wasn't a Melbourne Cup yesterday, and worked home okay for fourth. Through Irish Eyes is jumping well, you know. They're just the usual fellas going around. So one of them will keep winning again.
All right, so not too much significance. Let's get on to some performance. There's the Brian Beattie handicap. Ralphie, just to give you a bit of context, I put together a racing multi. If you miss one leg, you get your money back. If you get all three, obviously there's some pretty decent scenes. Marty and I were in the studio yesterday. First leg of that particular racing multi is Splashback, and at about the 250 to 300 metre mark, I was actually starting to go green in the gills and looked like I'd had a dose of ordinary oysters overnight. And then Marty said, well, hang on, what's happening here? And the turn of foot from Splashback to just drop on them late, Tommy Preble defeating Terra Star Sassy Boom. This was it's almost like a nitro button was pushed. It was a phenomenal finishing burst.
Yeah, they don't often win from that position. No. It doesn't matter who they're racing against or what time of year. So, and I will confidently say this: not only is it a stakes horse, but it wasn't the best win on the day. So that's how serious this meeting is. It was just phenomenal. Don't know how they could beat it in a final. Sassy Boom gave a good side at odds, and it's ready. Terra Star showed it just needs clean ground. They took it up to Queensland first up and off good trials, and it ran okay, but on a bottomless track. So, look, all the rest are the rest. But yeah, this horse has just got a different gravy for them, and it'll be going to spring, and it'll be winning a stakes race.
On to race number 8, it was Jimmy the Bear again for the Pains. Tommy Preble raced the race. The West Aussie Casino 17 was good in second.
Well, he was, and so Jimmy the Bear came off that really fast lead-in race when he was just position running was against him. As I said on the to you guys on the Sunday, there was zero knock on the ride. It was just the way the race panned out. So I thought, yeah, it's probably a bit tight in the market, but ultimately, and this is my fault. I had him on top, but I just couldn't get him that short. But ultimately, you know, you just got to look at the fact that one's come off a real fast race and some of the others hadn't. So he just smashed him. And he's just in the zone. And it's a tribute to the stable as well. Casino 17, as you said, just that not only put the writing on the wall, but its jump out was really good. And of course, you guys know how good his win was first up last prep, even though he was big odds. He's a proper horse, and it'll be very interesting to see where Gavin Bedgood takes him here if he can stay sound. Holy Man's ready, and the other one that was a bit of a hidden run, but don't know how hidden it was. Relentless Voyager. If that was its first start. It'll be winning lots of races. The Australian Bloodstock boys are very, very good at targeting the right horses.
All right, Ralphie. Now, you mentioned a figure, 1033, earlier on. There'll be some significance here. Really nice win to finish the day by She's an Artist. Craig Williams aboard. Fiordello's a nice horse. It was back in runner-up position, and Bridal Waltz was back in third. Let loose here on the last.
1026. So the significance is this is a horse having its second start. Runs 4 lengths faster than Marble 9 and those well-exposed, good, solid off-season sprinters. This horse is a superstar. I don't know what ceiling you want to put on it, but I wouldn't say it's impossible to be an Everest, future Everest horse. It's ahead of Bell and Epatino, I can say that, after 2 starts. And to do what it did, cruised around. At Bendigo, the reason they set your price was Bendigo win wasn't that fast on the clock overall. But the data showed via Vince's form was that there was a big mid-race slowdown there, and then there was an electric turn of foot. Well, yesterday I was just cruising, highballing all the way and just absolutely demolished them. So, well, we've got 2 spring horses, possibly 3 with Ancora, a Derby horse, but certainly Splashback and She's an Artist. Very, very exciting, and Cafe Millennium will take a power beating in the winter final.
Okay, we've got them in the book. One off the text line. What does Racetrack Ralphy do when the D's are at home?
When the D's are at home, when the D's are having a bye.
Yep.
I'm not, the way we're going at the moment with the D's have got a bye, I still reckon we'll kick more points than goals today.
Oh, very nice from you, Ralphie. It's been outstanding this morning, and exciting times out of that program there yesterday at Flemington. Have a ripper Sunday, mate.
Good on you, boys. Always fun.
Yeah, you find him at racetrackralphie.com.au. He is a beauty. It is time for the news.
On the Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Very good morning, Bradley.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. Good to be with you, boys. I know it doesn't say it on the marketplace, but we've got a new premiership favourite.
A new premiership favourite in the Brisbane Lions?
Absolutely. That was stellar. That was something out of the box. And, I know Collingwood were tidy enough last night, got the job done, Shorty, but it's 3 times they've upended Geelong now, Marty, and they're still the best team in the competition, and they're still the best talented team in the competition, and they're relatively young. So and there's still growth to come. So look at their reserves one as well, Marty. Yesterday, Oscar McInerney and a couple of others still down there pressing for selection. It's only going to increase the intensity of the players currently in the team, Shorty, and if... Look, I know they've got a relatively tough run home because they're playing so many teams in the top 8, but I don't think there's a game where you say they can't win.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Brad, I've sort of got the feeling watching Brisbane play this year that they've almost relished the opportunity to have a proper challenge when they've been taken to a game where they're playing a person or a side that are likely to be a contender and a threat later in the year. It's almost like they've been more likely to switch on and really energise for those games than some of the more stock standard games against teams you'd expect them to beat.
I agree, Shorty. And look, I love their brazenness this week, to be brutally honest, boys. I mean, you saw the coach was miffed the way that they were reviewed last week, and he said, we've gone to school, we're winding back the clock, we're going back to the playbook for the grand final preparation last week. We're coming down early. We're coming to destroy the Dangerfield party. That's all well and good. And I love the outward push. You still have that little niggle in the back of your mind, don't you, Marty? And go, well, yeah, okay. You've got to get it done yet. Well, didn't they get it done? And I want to give a bouquet because I trashed him last Monday Tuesday on winners and losers for the boys on Daily. Harris Andrews, he won't get votes on Brownlow Medal night, but I tell you what, he got an absolute new one torn by him by Jesse Hogan last week, and he came out and he was one of the dominant 3 on the ground on Friday night. Just goes to show what a leader he can actually be.
Yeah. Okay, and the other thing I loved about Fagan was after losing those 2 games, and he come out and he said, I'll tell you what's wrong with us, the scoreboard. Have a look, we've been kicking...
Kicking points instead of goals, 100%.
So he just said, straighten them right up, and all of a sudden, as it always happens, they've kicked extremely straight, and Geelong couldn't hit a barn door, 6-15 to 14-8. So there you go.
Marty, you and I and Riley spoke about it on Friday night, and what about this Logan Morris? I mean, incredible rise, from a bloke who got pulled out of the resi, stopped at the Ormo McDonald's to get something to eat on the way home. By the way, champ, we need you at the Gabba in about half an hour. And he hasn't looked back. I mean, he's been incredible. His run at the moment has been outstanding. And they've still got a few issues where they could clear up, the Charlie Camerons. And, there was no Archie, remember, with illness on the other night. So they've still got to get their mix right, and they can. Hipwood's not setting the world on fire, but at least he's contributing. My point being is that there's still a strong upside for this mob. And as I say, it doesn't make them win it, but I reckon they should be the new flags. What are they in the market on Tab Touch, Marty? I've got a funny feeling they're not going to be favourites. I think Collingwood are going to be favourites due to their ladder position and their draw on the run home. But they should, if they're not near enough to equal favourite. They should be on top.
Yeah, so we got Collingwood 355, Geelong 575, Brisbane 650, the Dogs 8, Hawthorn 10, Adelaide 11, Giants 14, Freo 16.
Well, that just belies the facts, doesn't it? I mean, my Dogs are $8. I mean, seriously. I mean, they're still in a fair battle to make the 8, let alone win a premiership. So, I just not sure they've got it right. I think that 650 for the punters out there who just want to put away their money for 3 months. I could think of a lot worse. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather be doing that than wait until closer to the day, because if they're in the grand final, they're going to be closer to Weaver's odds on.
Yeah, gee, Brad, one thing I'll say watching Brisbane, and they've got a luxury that not too many. Well, the Dogs are probably a bit similar. They've got plenty of options that can run through the midfield, but Brisbane. They just, with all these young guys that they've brought into the side, obviously the 2 Ashcroft boys, they've got Fletcher that's emerging, plus their old boys, McCluggage that runs through there. They've got
Rayner, Bailey.
Effectively 10 guys that can roll through that midfield role. It just gives them such a different look from week to week. And so you might be able to lock down on a Neil or a McCluggage or a Dunkley, and you think you're going okay, and then they'll move there and change their role, and they'll bring some of these younger players through and just re-energise it from sort of centre bounce to centre bounce.
Well, there's the other outlier too. Was the Tom Atkins performance on Lachie Neale was superb, and they did that without Lachie Neale pretty much. And the other one, Marty and I have been on the same page for some time, is Zach Bailey. We just keep saying it's pretty much 70% forward, 30% on ball. Look what he did when he gets on ball, Marty. Again, he just continues. He started to crash and bash a little bit there the other night, along with Rayner. And no, I agree with you, Shorty, and it's. It's still a long way to play out, but they are absolutely heading in the right direction.
And the other big story you haven't mentioned is the form turnaround of Kai Lohmann, because he hadn't been able to find it all year, and it's been an injury-interrupted season. We gave him a tickle up on Friday night. That brought the best out of him. Don't worry about that.
He was tuned in.
He was tuned in.
Well, it's been a hard one because, you can sustain injuries of different sorts, but when it's your ankle or around your feet area, it's not ideal because, you've got to be off your feet. You're not doing the work you should be. You're doing that pool works. You're doing all the bike work. You're doing all of that sort of stuff to keep the aerobic capacity up. But you're still, and then you get a bit rusty around the skill level because you're not out there doing it. And yeah, it was right. It was good, and he got a little bit of his cheekiness back as well, which was good. But no, I'm not writing the Cats off because look at their draw. I mean, it's just a gimme on the way home. But again, they tend to be a bit like that when they're playing the around the mark teams. They can beat up on them. But the test is going to come because we might have seen this movie before in September when it comes to Geelong.
I think I will say too, Brad, Geelong have been a club that have had a happy knack of when they've had milestone games on, they've got themselves up and got the job done. I think back through that generation where they had so many high-quality players that were seemingly sort of once a month. There was a 200th or a 250th or a 300th when they had that sort of real run of success, and they won so many of them and found ways to win. But they were actually clueless as to how to turn that game around the other night. They looked helpless at times. There were just small signs. There was a free kick late that was given away, and there was no one on the mark. There were just little 1%ers, but they were very un-Geelong-like. They're generally a very disciplined side. They're a team that do the 1%ers really well, but they were starting to just unravel a little bit late in that game, and I'm sure a lot of it was just frustration, but it was very unlike what we generally see from that side.
Yeah, you're right, Shorty. You know my theory, boys, on the age and the birth certificate only becomes an issue when you're not playing well. Now, he's been magnificent. Dangerfield, 350, 25th player to do so, etc. CV says it all, but he's no different. His kryptonite is his age. I mean, every 10 days for him. I know he's had a couple of uppers and downers, in recent times. And, he slots in alongside Jeremy Cameron and Burn,
Shannon Neal.
What's his name, Marty? Shannon Neal. I keep thinking of Shannon Burn, the little bloke.
Yep.
But he's not the player he was. And the only thing that beat Dangerfield the other night was Dangerfield. And well done to Dostarcevic. I mean, he was with him for most of the time. But how many times did he butcher kicks? Just trying to do a little bit too much. It wasn't pressure or referred pressure. It just unravelled himself, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, I think well done to him, outstanding champion. But as I say, and Fremantle got it with Fife, and Pendlebury continues to be Pendlebury. He's just a marvel. He seems to be the sweetest mover of these guys in that range of age. And he seems to be the best one. But he's had a couple of runs as a couple of gallops as the sub, etc. So they've handled him really, really well. But some of these older type players, as I say, every 10 to 14 days for them, you'd expect them to perform. So you're going to have some ups and downs with them between now and the end of the year.
First game yesterday, Brad, and we had a texter earlier on who sort of come for Vossi a bit and said, is this his coaching career finished at Carlton? 73 to North Melbourne 84, but the Roos led by 42 at three-quarter time, and that scoreboard belies the actual margin between the two. So first off the game, Carlton had it early. They kicked very inaccurately. That left North Melbourne off the lead, and then their pace was a real worry for Carlton. And it appeared, Brad, that they just downed tools when the pressure went on. What was it, 8 unanswered goals from the Roos?
Yeah, and it's been an issue. It's been an issue for Vossi for a certain portion of time now, and he knows it. And as I say, it's not as if they're sitting on their hands, not trying to do something about it, Shorty. You know what I mean? But anybody watching that game, I was doing the game obviously, but sensed it, and I was calling it early. I said, don't worry, North are on the move here around about the 21-minute mark of the first quarter. Things were just they weren't executing well themselves. And I'm thinking, gee, I'm loving the run of Uniacke. What about McKercher? She's all starting to get up and about. You know what I mean? And a few more were starting to buy in for them.
Zerha really started to get going, Bradley.
Yeah, Larky. Yeah, exactly. But they're on the tail end of it, Shorty. As I see, the actual ball movement and the progression from line through line to up there, to make them dangerous, was starting to be a real reality for them. And mate, what did Wiedering have? Mate, fair dinkum, I thought he'd been shot by a sniper in the second tier.
It was all over for a year.
We thought he's gone for the year, and in 10 minutes he's back. Good on him. I'm really pleased for him, but dearie me. I think that Marty, as I say, they tend to down tools after half-time all the time. It's been a common denominator. And we said that about West Coast the week before, Shorty, where we gave them a silly sniff, and we called it and said, if West Coast are going to beat Carlton, they're going to know their fate by three-quarter time. Well, they knew their fate the first 45 minutes. It was gone. And the same applied to North Melbourne yesterday, yet they kept taking it up to them, and then in the end, you're right, Marty, the scoreline did belie the dominance of North. But North, again, were a little bit confusing. They did the three-quarter time, Shorty. They were marvellous, the way they were taking the game on and, as you say, bringing the ball in quickly to Zerha, and Larky and Curtis was really efficient at ground level. It was fantastic. Mate, they down tools. Mm-hmm. They started to, we're 46 points in front. Can we hang on from here? Can we hang from? It's your problem. Just kick it sideways, kick it backwards. What are you doing? Keep attacking the game. So, whilst Clarkson will be happy, he wasn't that happy as you could see in the last quarter when the wall started to close in a little bit. So they've still got a little bit of work to do, but well done to them. Their wins have been few and far between, but they fully deserve that one. Look, there's no doubt the knives are going to come. The Carlton fans are as most rabid as any in the country, bar none. Don't worry. So they'll be baying blood at the moment. Now, I can tell you, even before win, lose or draw in that game on the weekend, Graham Wright comes in. He's a no-nonsense. We know what he's like. He doesn't officially start till October, but don't worry, he started. There will be changes at Carlton. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be Voss. Look, he will want to make sure he trades out of it a little bit better in this latter part of the season. But from his point of view, they'll be changing the deck chairs around him. The assistant coaches will be cleaned out. The list management and recruiting staff will be cleaned out. They know. They've traced it back. Bar probably being 15 minutes away from, grand final. Yeah. What was that, Shorty, Marty? What was that, 2023?
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah. They know that their top half a dozen top names, they're pretty thin on the ground when it comes to talent.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a fair point. They're the back half of their list. They've got the big dogs, like you say, but if they're down, they don't have the talent levels to help them around. And to be fair, they've underachieved for a pretty significant period of time. For a power club of their competition, they just haven't lived up to it.
Shorty, Marty, who would you trade? I'm putting a big fish on. I'm putting one out there. I'm going hard. Is it Mackay? Is it Curnow? Is it Walsh? Who are you prepared to put out there that someone is going to think, well, yep, we'll take him. We think we can turn them back into the player they were or whatever. And, Curnow's probably the longest one, but there's got to be names there somewhere. And it can't be, Fogarty and Durden and these sort of blokes.
No.
That's not going to gut it.
I'd do a deal with Sydney and send Curnow up there. Get something back from Sydney. Sydney need a big name up there. Curnow would be perfect up there. But he's underachieved for 2 years. Indeed. Wow.
I've been questioning his fitness all year, and I don't get it. I don't like the mirror muscles. I don't like the exploitation of every ad, universal ad. He's involved. Mate, how about worrying about getting a kick? That would be. How about playing well in a big game? How about playing well when your team needs you? And that's more often than not after half time, and he just doesn't turn up.
Any of those three would command really good trade value for the football club and allow them to get up the order when it comes to recruiting some new talent to the club. It'll be interesting to watch this space for Carlton, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with that head coaching position. Let's have a look at the Port Adelaide-Sydney game, Brad. Marty and I were discussing this in the build-up to the weekend. It was great for Dean Cox to have access to some of his star players for this game, and they, despite kicking terribly, 9 goals, 17-71, they just completely outplayed Port Adelaide, who were pretty ordinary, kicking 7-10-52. It was a 19-point victory for the visitors.
Yeah, bitterly disappointed, not only in the result for Port, but the effort, Shorty. It wasn't there.
Wow.
It wasn't there. It wasn't what we'd come to expect from a Ken Hinckley coach team in recent times. And good on Coxie, and we're all pleased for him. He's a popular figure. And it is the first time that he's had the cavalry coming over the hill. He had Callum Mills and he had Goulden and he had
Papley,
the little fella, Papley. Yeah. So, and Marty, not that he's our favourite Marty, but, at least he still frustrates. He frustrates the bejesus out of you, as a stats watcher and all of that sort of stuff. But, they were terrific yesterday. And look, and I'm not going to agree. I'm not falling for this foolhardiness. Oh, the Swans are back. Well, no, they're not back. They're back to 2024. No, they're not. But it's a step in the right direction. So, and of course, my boys go up there next week, and that'll be a big test for them. And let's just see how they go. Let's not heap. And I heard Blakey say, we've been on a roll before. They're not going to win 10 in a row. Just so forget that. That's a given. So not in this environment. They're not going to do that. But well done to Coxie. It's good. He's held his nerve. He took a lot of criticism on board. He's decided to drop Lloyd, and not before time.
Not before time.
Wow. And it's just a matter of a fact where, a bit like Marnus Labuschagne in the cricket, Shorty, but let's not go there. Mm-hmm. But you get to a stage where, something had to give, had to be a circuit breaker, and there was. And well done to them, and they fully deserved their win. And as you say, had they been kicking accurately, the damage would have been a lot more than it reads, 19 points.
Yeah, they win by 10 goals easily. Now, this was a good game last night. I really enjoyed it. Collingwood getting over St Kilda late in the match, and possibly this scoreboard is opposite to the Carlton North one. It probably should have been a bit closer because St Kilda got it to 10 points, about 8-10 minutes into that final quarter, and then Collingwood flexed their muscles.
Well, unfortunately for your mob, Shorty, they copped it from St Kilda the way they played last night, and it was enough to frustrate the bejesus out of Fremantle. We know what happened there. All's forgiven, forgotten, move on. But that's what they were able to do at Collingwood last night. Collingwood went out there. They don't enjoy playing Marvel. They never have. They've got the job done on a number of occasions, but it's not there. They love the expanses of the bigger grounds, Marty. The way they could change direction and run the ball and bite off the kicks through the corridor, where at least St Kilda were able to get a formation of defensive shape where they could really put pressure on Collingwood, turn their football over and do okay going back the other way themselves. Fabulous, pantomime around, Vindaga versus Dacos, and it was right on from ball, bounce down number one, and Jesus, a little star, isn't he, Nick Dacos? And, he just outworked him, and his teammates supported him, which is even better. Every time Windaga went to make a move somewhere or another, bump, bang, oh, sorry, mate, and it just frustrated. And Dacos ended up probably being the best of field. But, it was a nice effort from St Kilda up to a certain point. But again, in the end, talent will wear you down, and they've got supreme talent. Collingwood, they haven't got the talent, exactly right. And Collingwood were able to get going. All of a sudden, Jamie Allett, who couldn't draw you one early, he got going, and he kicked a couple of quick ones and turned the game away from St Kilda, and then Bobby Hill joined in, and the rest is history. So, another win to the Pies. They're going to finish top of the ladder, and I'm not underestimating them one iota, Shorty. Don't get me wrong, because they've got a fantastic run home. But when was the last time that the team that finished on top of the ladder won the flag? It's been a little while, so it's not all about finishing top. No,
it isn't. I want to get this one to you from Rusty Gates. Interesting to hear that Ross Lyon wants an explanation as to why the free kicks awarded to Nick Dacos were free kicks. Hasn't he noticed that players are constantly penalised for blocking in marking contests? So I can't see the difference when a tagger is penalised for blocking his opponent from contesting the ball after a stoppage. In my opinion, taggers should be penalised more often for blatant blocking offences. Rusty Gates.
Yeah, no, good observation by Rusty, as always. But, look, I mean, it's just the deflection 101, Again, it's just covering up the fact that St Kilda unfortunately haven't got the talent that they want and where they want to be, and the pressure's going to come to bear at some stage, because honourable losses, it's the first time I've ever seen a coach like Ross Lyon, declare an honourable loss. That's what he was trying to do last night, and that's okay. I mean, but again, it just suggests to me that the heat's coming on Rusty, but I agree with Rusty. I want to see the best players play. I want to see the best players go at it. When are we going to see Dangerfield versus Fife again? Back all those years ago, let them go head to head. And this is the beauty of the Brisbane Lions, and it's the beauty of other clubs, and including Collingwood, including a couple of others in the competition, where they're allowed to go head to head. With they do have accountability, but they let them go head to head.
Your boys, Bradley, the Western Bulldogs, back themselves in. They back themselves in to get the job done. Yep.
Yeah, at times, I've been critical of Hardwick because I think he needs to employ it from time to time. I think he needs to address the better players of the opposition. But, we want to see more of that. We want to see the stars star and not let them star, but within reason. I mean, you want to quell them. Impeding, not within the rules. That's what I'm saying. If they're not doing it within the rules, it shouldn't be being done. And Rusty's right. Ping them, stop them. And then let the game flow on.
Okay, Bradley, you've been in good form. I know you've at least got a couple of multis in over the weekend that I've heard of, so well done on that.
Yes, thank you.
Just head-to-heads today, GWS or Gold Coast?
I'm leaning to the Giants. If they have to back it up, what they did last week. Yep.
And Western Bulldogs cover that line at 51.5. It's a big line.
Ooh. Yeah, no, I'm not worried about the lines. I just want to bank the points. And
bank the points.
They're going to treat Richmond as a faceless team today. But you can't worry about. You can't even put a colour on them. The Dogs are going to go out and put the opposition, whoever it is today, which is Richmond, to sleep early. Okay. Get them out of the way early.
Let's get our Sunday saviour.
Oh, you're going to love this one, Shorty. Echuca Race 1, number 9, Home Zone, $1.09. The Hayes Camp are going to win both the first races at Echuca, and then we'll go to Cranbourne Race 1, number 10, Bakash, also from the Hayes Camp, $1.60. And here we come. Roll the drums, please, Marty. Echuca Race 5, number 3, Mr. Shortte, $4. So $1.90, $1.60, $4. That'll be $12.16 today, boys.
Beautifully done, Bradley, for loans 1, 2, 3, and of course for Retrovision.
The new nut, he's an absolute champion. 1-800-100-100. He can do things the banks can't. We keep imploring that. And Frankie Lee at Ross's Oxen. He's a champion, isn't he? He's a beauty, boys. Have a great day, lads. And it's only a couple of games of footy today, but sit back and relax and enjoy the fun.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Bradley.
See you, boys.
On The Aftermath, you are listening to Marty Young and David Shortte right here on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Plenty of text to get through, Shorty, but we have to touch on day 2 of the Test match in England, India v England, and a bit of a collapso for the Indians.
Was indeed. So just for anybody that's missed it, 2 days into the first test of this series, and India batted first. One of our favourites, Yashasvi Jaiswal, with a magnificent 100 off 159 balls. He made 101. Shubman Gill, class with a capital C, 147 off his 227 balls. And Rishabh Pant chimed in with 134. You'd think with 3 centurions that they would have sort of marched on to a 650 sort of score. But as Marty alluded to, they lost 6 for 40, ended up with 471 for England. It was Josh Tongue, 4 for 86. Ben Stokes did a wonderful job. He's a good all-rounder. His 4 for 66 was crucial. And he clean bowled Jaiswal to start the run for England. And then in response, England 3 for 209. Ben Duckett was good with 62. Ollie Pope's not out on 100, but it was Jasprit Bumrah taking all 3 for 48 from his 13 overs. He right now is just on a different level to any other fast bowler on the planet. He is absolutely superb, and any condition, so he can take it across there, and he's swinging it around. His fellow new ball bowlers, Siraj and Krishna, they are trying hard, but Bumrah's, it's almost like he's got just a telepathy with the stone that he can do things that most other bowlers cannot right now.
That is for sure. Can you get us the latest betting on that? And while we'll do, I'll have a look at the waffle results. East Fremantle have gone down. What about this as an upset? 34, Swan District 66. This was at Good Grosser Park. Claremont got the money against West Perth, 93 to 61 at Revo Fitness. Peel Thunder 39, the Mighty Bulldogs 74, too good. And then East Perth 43 were beaten by Subiaco 53 at the Battle at Leederville.
Some good waffle action this weekend. England-India market. England now at $2.80, the draw at $3.30, and India $2.38. So all 3 outcomes in play, and if you want to have a bet there, then certainly at the moment they're all pretty viable options. So good luck to you there.
Very special guest joins us right now.
And Raikkonen's about midfield as they straighten up now. So into the straight, Cool, Jakey and Winchat. Winchat moves up on the outside. Beledo stoked up third. Headley Grange into the clear, running on. Then came a Noah Star Astero. Raikkonen making ground back towards the inside with a checkered passage. Winchat in front, but under sufferance. Headley Grange moved up. Headley Grange takes the lead. Will Wall's rattling home wide out. Headley Grange all out, 50 to go. Headley Grange in front of Will Wall, and Headley Grange got in by a half length to Will Wall. I think Astero held on to third.
Terrific win there, Headley Grange, and it was a race-to-race double to finish the program there yesterday at Royal Randwick for Joe Pride, and he joins us right now. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, good morning.
How's things? It was a good win from Headley Grange, and we were talking about this earlier on. It looked like they went a very quick tempo in this, and my only little concern in the run was, was he just a little too close to a fast pace, and they were coming at him late. But do we sort of add a little bit to the win?
Yeah, possibly. Jason sort of commented after the race, and the plan before the race was to make use of a good draw and not give him too much work to do, because it did look a tough day to make up ground, but they ended up going a silly sort of tempo, and I guess if he'd probably sat back a couple of lengths, he might have won more impressively. But look, they're under a lot of pressure. Those jocks, he's sitting on a red hot favourite.
Yep.
He didn't want to take any chances. And but I think yes, to answer your question, I think you could add a little bit more on.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, such a consistent horse, Headley Grange, putting together a wonderful career record now. 18 starts, 8 wins, 7 placings. Every time you take this horse to the track, you know what you're going to get. Just turns up and gives it everything.
He does. His worst 2 runs to me are 2 fourths on a Saturday, so it's not too bad, isn't it? They're your bad runs. But no, crazy, consistent. Look, I mean, that's not going to be like that forever, but it's nice to see him make it all the way through to black top racing and still have that level of consistency.
So going forward, what are the plans?
Probably go to the Grafton for the South Grafton Cup, which is one of our qualifiers for the big dance. So he's won it a mile before, and he has no problems with that. So it's probably third up, about ideal. I think it's 3 weeks away, 13th of July.
Excellent. And, of course, a nice way to round out the program with Accredited getting the job done. You would have been delighted with the performance here to round out your afternoon.
Yeah, I really like Accredited. I had him nommed as well for the Civic, but elected to just, with a month between runs, just bring him back to the 1,200 metres, and it was good. It would have been an interesting clash on the day if they'd clashed those two, but that was good. Gets another benchmark win for him, and now he can step into blacktop racing Accredited, and he's got a sort of similar sort of record. I think he's won 7, but a promising horse still on the way up.
Yeah, nice ride from Nash to get into that 1-1 position early.
Absolute gem of a ride, yep. That's what you expect from Nash, and had an awkward draw, but overcame that very quickly and just put him in that great spot. And
Cosmonova ran 3rd in the same race, was also a nice effort.
It was a good run. She had a cosy little run behind him with no weight on her back, but she's a mare who's only just coming out of 78 grade, so to perform at that higher level looks good for her in the future.
Storm the Ramparts, runner-up there yesterday, another of your team that's been in wonderful form. Of course, you had a double there yesterday. A fortnight ago, you had a treble. Joe, you've got the team absolutely flying at the moment. Outside of that, there's winners wherever you're heading with your team at the moment. I know you do a wonderful job. You've got a great team around you, but, gee, it's lovely when you have a run of success like you're having of late.
It is, yeah. We came into the winter with a really good team, and still a lot of work to be done at that point, but it's all fallen into place nicely. And it is normally a good time of year for us through this winter period, or sort of reserve a few horses, the right sort of horses for this time of year. And the racing's definitely drops down a level. And if you've got the right cattle to put in the races, well, they'll invariably be in the money there somewhere.
Hey Joe, how did Private Eye pull up after the Stradbroke?
Yeah, super. Really happy with him. So he came back down, put him under saddle for a couple of days here, and he's just headed up to Emran, which is a spelling place north of Sydney here, and he'll have just 10 days off and back in the stable and look at heading towards the Winks with him.
Excellent. And Joe, an update on the stable star Chelwolf. What's the latest?
Yeah, really good. Very happy with him. So he's been back 3 weeks now, and he'll also head towards that Winks Stakes. So, spring will be in the air soon enough. Miserable sort of winter weather at the moment, very cold, but we're not too far away from the good horses. They're back in the stable, but not too far from trialling and racing. So,
what'd you make of his last campaign, Chelwolf?
Disappointing by his standards.
Yep.
But I think it was a campaign he needed to have. Just a few little things went wrong. Nothing major, a few little things went wrong, and it's not easy for these horses to make the transition. He set such a high standard. In the spring when he won the Epsom and the King Charles. Look, he's only a 4-year-old. He's lightly raced. It's all ahead of him. He's a really exciting horse, and I think what you're going to see from him in the next couple of seasons is going to be very special.
Is it a case of it's just one of those campaigns when he basically didn't come up, it just didn't work out?
Well, they didn't come up, but we ended up in a few races that weren't ideal for him.
Okay.
He had a little setback, ended up in the Canterbury Stakes instead of being able to run in the mile race. But if any of his supporters listening, don't lose faith in this horse. He's a very special horse.
Joe,
I'm looking forward to it.
You've been saying for a pretty significant period of time, up until that last prep, that you just never really knew where the ceiling might be. We just erase that last preparation and go back to prior, what the horse had been doing. It really had emerged as one of the most exciting gallopers in the country.
Yeah, Yeah, that's him. He's an amazing horse to work with, and I'm really looking forward to the spring with him. I'm not exactly sure where we're going to go just yet. A good chance we'll be defending the King Charles trophy, but I would like to get into Melbourne at some point and test the water there and just see potentially how he gets around the valley. So,
how do you go about working out the program then? Is it how he comes up? What did you say he's been in work 3 weeks?
Yeah. No, so, look, I mean, his first run will be in that Wink Stakes, and they're clues you take along the way. You know, how he goes in his first couple of runs will let us know, which direction we should head, and they'll just be guided by that. And there's often not always a clear right or wrong answer, but they can make you look good, these horses. They can cover up a few of your errors. You can go the wrong way and still win sometimes. So, but he's just an amazing horse to work with, and I'm really looking forward to the next couple of years with him.
Joe, the runs look set to continue. Is there a runner or two from the camp that potentially looks like heading back to the winners list over the next week or two for our listeners this morning from the camp?
Yeah, sure. I had a horse who ran very disappointing last weekend, Testator Silence. I think he'll run much better this weekend. Actually, 2 out of the last weekend I thought were disappointing. Testator Silence and Private Eye's little brother, King's Secret. I think they'll both bounce back with much better runs this weekend. So you always get better odds when they've disappointed at the start before, as opposed to looking like an unlucky runner. So I think we stick with those two this weekend and we'll make some money.
Beautifully done, Joe. We love your work, and thanks for coming on the program today. Well done on yesterday.
Great. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Pride wraps it up there. We've got plenty to get through, Shorty. I want to do a couple of texts, and we want to talk about those heats of the Paradise Street last night. We'll have a listen to a couple of the replays because one of the races was outstanding. Boys, Marty's poor kicking for golf at Sydney was remarkable yesterday. 6 points from 9 shots. Can you ever remember such a shocking effort? That's Rick from Rossmoyne. Well, being on Swans yesterday, I was very disappointed with Marty's efforts, to be honest, Rick.
Oh, it's frustrating.
He could not have hit water if he fell out of boat. Fair dinkum.
It does happen at all levels of football. Sometimes guys just have off days, but when you're the number one big dog forward, you just need to convert.
Particularly when the last time you played at that ground, you kicked 9 goals, 1.
Oh, man. That just shows you the game, though, doesn't it?
Does it ever? All right, here's Lisa. Now, Lisa's covered off on Nick Dacos earlier, so we'll skip that part of the text, Lisa, and go to Oscar Allen. If he decides to go to Brisbane, what will the Eagles get in return, especially now with his latest injury?
Pick two. So their first pick's going to be pick 1, and you get the next pick. So it'll be pick 2, and this is the unique situation that is Oscar Allen. So because generally you'd be loath to leave a captain, a co-captain of your club to walk out the door. But in reality, Oscar Allen's had a few injury problems. He's right now in demand from another club, and you're literally going to be gifted pick 2 in a national draft. As a football club, it's very rare in your history that you'll be given picks 1 and 2 in a draft. So West Coast have to look at where they're at the moment. Oscar's probably not going to be there in sort of the next... His best footy's likely to be in the next 3 or 4 years. After that is when West Coast are probably likely to get going. So he's probably not in your plans over the next 3 or 4 to make a huge difference. Take pick 2. Hope that you get a generational talent or something like it that you can really build your team around. It's a unique situation that's a bit of a win-win. Oscar gets to freshen up with his career. Brisbane are looking for a key forward to replace Danaher. If he can get back to his best fitness-wise, he can have a big impact up there and be important for them. For me, it's a bit of a win-win. I never thought I'd see Oscar Allen leave West Coast, but he's going to get something decent out of it, and West Coast are going to get something decent out of it. It appears a win-win to me.
Yep. Sad to hear that Gov has been forced into retirement. He wore the jumper with pride, always giving 110%. This is a continuation of the text from Lisa. Even when playing with an injury, as we saw in 2008, he was hospitalised during the week of the grand final. He came out and played and it was his intercept mark and Sheed's brilliant goal that won them the flag. There's no doubt about that. Wish Gov the best of health, and to him and the family all the best for the future. Take care. Enjoy your week. That is from Lisa. And both you and I heard that interview yesterday on Crunch Time with Coach Adam Simpson, and he said he didn't even want to hop in the car for the cavalcade, and they were going to fine them $50,000 if he didn't.
Correct. Yeah,
that's how crook he was going in.
Oh well, look, it's rare that I would promote another station, but if you didn't hear that interview yesterday,
look it up.
It is honestly as good a radio as you'll hear. Crunch Time from SEN, and his former coach speaking candidly about what sort of human being he was, how much he just wanted to be there to represent his team, to represent his coach, to represent his family and football club. A finer human, I think you'd probably struggle to meet by the sounds. Just a great guy, massive heart, and gave everything for the game of football, but just so grateful for the way he spoke. Adam Simpson speaks great about him, but the way that McGovern spoke at his press conference, he didn't mention himself at one point. All he talked about was how grateful he was for the football club and the opportunities they'd given him, to his teammates, to his coaches, what a better human, not just a better footballer, but a better human he's been through the process. And I just think he's right there. If I've got young boys, and I said to both of them, listen to this, and this is the standard that you have to aspire to, not just as an athlete, but as a human, to be a really good person.
Shorty, well done. Now, Sonny Walters in strife for striking in the South game. Didn't look good from where I sat. Parker or Rusco didn't want to shake his hand after the game. Wait and see. That is from Murray. I haven't seen it.
No, nor I.
Sounds like Murray's on the spot, and he spotted one there. Quickly, we got Chris Pike online, talk NBA, because this massive game unfolds tomorrow. It tips off at about 8 a.m. our time. The Pacers, they're out to 3:30. OKC are 135. That line's at 7.5. Chris Pike has been on the Pacers all the way through. He joins us now. G'day, Chris.
Yeah, good morning, guys. And one sleep to go. One sleep to go, and we get a very rare Game 7 to decide the NBA championship. So very exciting 24 hours ahead.
That's the truth, isn't it? Incredible, Pikey, that you can play as many games as what they do in the NBA, and it all comes down to one game of basketball. So it's likely to be an absolute beauty. I must admit, after Game 5, I thought, this could well be just about all over. But, gee, the Pacers turned things around on their home deck and were 17-point winners over the Thunder there in Game 6. And we get the Game 7 that we've all been looking forward to. Thunder home floor advantage is important, but Pacers, to their credit, all through this series, they have found ways to just hang tough and stay in games.
Yeah, absolutely. And after Game 5, both me and Marty were almost ready to give up, weren't we, Marty? But we stuck thick with the Pacers, and they did the job on their home floor in that Game 6. An incredibly dominant Game 6 win. I mean, they didn't just win; they completely dominated OKC. Completely on top right from the start. OKC, I think at one point they were shooting 1 of 16 from 3. They ended up with, I think it was 21 turnovers for the game. They had a horrible night, and full credit to the Pacers for forcing them into having a terrible night. They played OKC style defense to make that happen, and then their variety of offensive weapons really came to the fore. They got so many threats out there, and Tyrese Halliburton played through a sore calf and had a big impact on the game. And yeah, it's a fascinating one, because now it's the Pacers with the momentum after that dominant Game 6, and then you play 3 days later. So is it that momentum carrying over that holds them in good stead, or is it OKC going back to their home floor and having been the best team all season in the NBA? Is that what carries them forward, and do they have the confidence to pull out one more good game? I think it's a toss of the coin. I honestly can't pick who's going to win. I think it could go either way, and the key for the Pacers is putting the pressure back on OKC early, because I think all the expectations are on them to win. Almost a free hit for the Pacers, because nobody expected them to get this far. So if they could go and pull off something special and do it on the road, it'll be one of the more remarkable championship wins I think we've seen in a very long time.
Yeah, big time. So just to put it in perspective, betting on this series with 2 games to go after Game 5, was $1.04 for OKC, $10 for Indiana with 2 games to go. And I said at the time when we did the market update, all you need is Indiana to win 2 games. You're getting $10 in 2 head. It's a big price. It's easy in hindsight, I know, but that shows you how lopsided the bookmakers had it. But we're up to Game 7 and you just never know. One man I want to give a bit of credit to is Obi Toppin. He's been absolutely magnificent for Indiana through this series.
No, absolutely has. And they've got so many great stories like that. But you have a look at Game 6 and all the big moments, he just steps up to hit big shots. He hits 4 threes in that game. And that's the great thing about Indiana. You don't know who is going to beat you. So it makes them really hard to stop, because if you stop, say, if you put the clamps on Halliburton, you put the clamps on Naismith, it might be Nembhard that comes out like he did in that Game 1 comeback, or it might be TJ McConnell who came off the bench as their feisty little point guard in Game 6. Like you said, Obi Toppin, the 4 threes, but it could be Mathurin, who I think was back in Game 3 or 4 that they won. He came out and had a huge game. Yeah, they've got a lot of weapons. They go really deep, so it makes them really tough to slow down and to stop. And I mean, it makes it tough to know if they win, who would be the MVP. I think it's probably Siakam right now, who would be. Yeah, I think so. But gee, you could throw a blanket over 3 or 4 of them. That's what makes them so good, and that's why they're going to be really tough to beat, because they've also shown that they can be down 20 during a game in this playoff series and come back and win. They did it in Game 1. They did it back in the series before against the Knicks. They can come back and win from anywhere. They have great belief. So. Yeah, OKC is going to have to play their absolute best if they want to get the job done tomorrow. Absolutely.
It's going to be a beauty. 8 o'clock tip-off tomorrow morning. Be sure to get around it. Now, also, Pikey, just quickly, we're hearing all these wonderful signings around the league, and, obviously Adelaide are putting together a wonderful roster. There's big names being signed over onto the East Coast list, but we're hearing very little in relation to the Perth Wildcats. Can you give Perth Wildcats fans out there anything to be getting a little bit fizzed up about? Are you hearing any news about some potential big signings or anything positive in regards to this playing list for the season ahead?
I wish I could, Shorty. I wish I could. I spoke about it with Marty on Friday. They're going to have to really pull something out of their hat to put together a roster that's going to be competitive, because, like you said, you have a look at the Adelaide 36ers, and not only have they signed Bryce, but they've brought back Montrezl Harrell. They've added Zylan Cheatham, who was a import forward at the Breakers a few years ago. You look at Sydney, they've got Kendrick Davis and Matthew Dellavedova together. Melbourne have got Milton Doyle across from Tasmania. Everybody's loaded up. But gee, the cupboard's looking very thin. They've only got 1 import spot free because they have re-signed Dylan Windler and Christian Doolittle, which I think is a good thing. But it means they probably need 2 import level players. One as a centre to replace Keanu Pinder, who's now joined Bryce Cotton on the outs list. But they also need an import spot to use on replacing Bryce Cotton. So it's really tough to find a high quality local player that's going to be good enough to fill one of those spots. I don't know which way they're going to go. There was a lot of talk they were going to sign Yanni Wetzel, a big Kiwi who would have filled that big man spot very nicely, but he's now gone and signed elsewhere, so he won't be coming. So the cupboard's very thin in terms of big men. Joe Luala-Chul was the other one that they were very keen on, but he's not coming back to the NBL this season either. I don't have any news, because I don't think there's great news to come with Ben Henschel as well. I don't expect him to come back to the NBL either. I think he'll play college for a year and then nominate for the NBA draft next year as well. So, they've got 2 spots to fill. One is their import, one is their big man, and replacing Bryce Cotton and Keanu Pinder is what they need to do. And right now they're a little bit behind the rest of the league, so they've got some work to do. And they need 1 really good import, but they need to find a local that's a high-quality player from somewhere. So whether or not they go for an import big man and then somebody like Will McDowell-White might be on the agenda as their guard, or they might have to find a local somewhere that's their big man and then find a point guard somebody somewhere close to the level as Bryce Cotton.
You're trying to replace Bryce Cotton, the all-time great. So good luck with that. Hey, Chris, we've got to get moving. Thanks for that. Go the Pacers.
Good luck. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Chris Pike. He's a beauty. Right, we've got a minute. So, Heat 1 of the Paradise Street last night was Aston Smoky beating Fast Bite as Sunset Serengeti and Vanales. But then the second heat, let's have a listen to this. This was a ripper.
West on Sydney, the favourite, and they're set. Racing. Jumping quickly near the inside was Sunset Comanche. Also showing early speed was Rapido Jedi. Out wider was Bezecchi, nice and handy. And getting through West on Cindy's camp right on the leaders. In behind them next of all was Wise Barra. Then followed by Can You Bypass and Lone Shark as they dare down the back. And Sunset Comanche leads Bezecchi. Now levels up on the outside. Then followed by Wise Barra and making ground around the outside. Can You Bypass? Losing ground off the back was West on Sydney, but going for home was Bezecchi out by 2. Sunset Comanche is second. 8 lengths away was Can You Bypass in the home straight. Bezecchi coming again. Sunset Comanche lunges, didn't get there. Bezecchi's just won. Second, Sunset Comanche.
Some sort of a race with Sunset Comanche coming again at Bezecchi, and they hit the line well clear of third and fourth.
Indeed, 34.55, winning by a head. Sunset Comanche is going to be a ripper final next week. The Paradise Street Trophy final. Marty, thank you. Good luck, punters, for your Sunday.